As the Uruguayan curls one in. Oh, Middlesbrough take the lead!
We're already here at the October international break with another one only weeks away. Seriously, whose stupid idea was this? Nevertheless, there are people who hate October international breaks more than your average fan, and they are under pressure championship managers, because it is notoriously the time of year and the graveyard when owners of clubs decide that it is time to axe managers who are underperforming. Now, it has been quite refreshing this season that we've only seen, I'd say, one justified sacking in the Championship. I don't really count Neil Warnock leaving Huddersfield as a justified sacking, as that seemed like a more mutual thing. And I'm not even gonna begin to talk about John Eustace getting replaced by Wayne Rooney, as that's probably the most unlogical and unjustified managerial change that I've ever seen, and that is a video in itself. But what we have seen is Isco Munoz get sacked from Sheffield Wednesday and replaced by, is it Danny Danny Rule? Danny Rule. I'm just going to call him Danny Rule. But I still do believe there are a number of managers who could be under serious pressure if results do not improve at their respective clubs. So here are 5 managers in the Championship who I believe could be next to get the sack if their form doesn't improve. Number 1, Gareth Ainsworth at QPR. Now, despite keeping QPR up by the skin of their teeth last season, it's safe to say across his entire tenure as QPR manager, Gareth Ainsworth hasn't really shown the QPR fans that he is the man capable of getting them going, not only away from the relegation zone, but actually up the Championship table. There has been a very tiny improvement over the last couple of weeks, but I think that's a case of how low the standard and the bar is at QPR. The 1 or 2 impressive wins away from home and a style of football that's looking slightly more effective than last season's horror show. If that's what you consider to be turning a corner and an improvement, then that shows that the bar and the standard really is low at Loftus Road. But despite that, things have took a turn back to where they were before, with QPR now on a run where they've not won in 6. They also have the second worst attack in the league, and get this for a stat, they've only won once at home in 12 months, which is an absolutely appalling statistic, and one I couldn't sympathise more with when it comes to the QPR season ticket holders. Now, when you're struggling towards the bottom of the league, sometimes you can lean on your home form to get you them very important points and wins here and there when you need them. But when your home form is as bad as QPR's is at the moment, you're relying on the other 23 away games to pick up the magical 40 points that you roughly need to stay up. And right now, that is not looking likely at all. You cannot rely on your away form to keep yourself up in the Championship, and with the home form QPR have at the moment, things are looking desperately bleak for the R's. Now, it's okay when you're getting points here and there, but Gareth Ainsworth's style of football is incredibly tough to watch. They don't create many chances, they don't have much possession whatsoever, and when you start losing games, that type of football looks 100 times worse than it actually is, and it's going to turn the fans against Gareth Ainsworth pretty quickly. So it might be time for the QPR hierarchy to make a change before things get too bad for QPR, who have just dropped into the relegation zone and are down there 2 points from safety. So I think it is more than fair to say that over his time as QPR manager, Gareth Ainsworth hasn't exactly took them any further forward than what they were already, and if things continue, they're only going one way, and that is League One. 2. Matt Taylor at Rotherham United. Now, there is a part of me that feels a little sorry for Matt Taylor, because he's pretty much playing with a squad that is not good enough at this level, a squad that lost stars in the summer and didn't really replace them, and I think with that sense, he's got one hand tied behind his back. However, you can't look past how poor Rotherham have looked this season, how they just look so far below the standard required to stay up in the Championship this season. They're really, really poor going forward. They've lost the XG battle in the majority, if not all, of the games that they've played in so far this season. Currently have no wins in 6, and if you want to look at QPR's terrible record at home, Rotherham's is almost just as bad away from home. They've almost gone a full calendar year without a win on the road, and could be one of the worst away sides I think I've ever seen. So, arguably, like QPR, can Rotherham rely on their form at home to get them the points they need to stay up? I'm not so sure that they will. So just like QPR, they are on a one-way trip to League One unless things improve. What I will say though is, unlike QPR, being a team who would maybe not expect to be in the position that they're in given their budget and the players at their disposal, Rotherham, you could argue, do have a budget of a bottom 3 side and a squad that matches it, and it is always going to be a real uphill struggle for them to stay up. So expectations are a lot lower, you could say, at Rotherham. That's why maybe sacking Matty Taylor is more of an unnecessary risk for Rotherham, and they more realistically could accept going down, rebuilding and bouncing back next season. So sacking him might be a more unnecessary, panic trigger happy kind of risk that Rotherham might not need to make. But when teams are down there and they're desperate to stay in the division, owners will make these decisions. So although I'm not as sold that sacking him is the right decision, it could happen. 3. Alex Neil at Stoke City. Now, I don't know what the hell happens down at Stoke, but I still was not convinced, even when they made all of the summer business, that things were going to change, and this was finally the season where Stoke were looking to knock on the door of the playoffs. Despite a decent looking start, things have well and truly gone off the rails down at the Bet365 Stadium, and all of the lack of trust that I had in Stoke as a club have pretty much come true. They've had 1 win in their last 8 league games, are looking pretty poor going forward considering the players they have at their disposal, and it's once again like Michael O'Neill, Gary Rowett, Nathan Jones that have come before him. Alex Neil, despite being a very good Championship manager, just cannot get a tune out of the players at Stoke. Now, I don't know if it's the scattergun-like approach that Stoke tend to adopt in transfer windows, where they tend to go after players who look more individually good on paper rather than a player that fits the overall style of a team. I don't know if they're suffering a similar fate as to what they've done in the past, where they bring in players who don't necessarily look like they're going to play well together and just hope that they individually get the goals and assists required. The Stoke team does not look good as an overall side cohesively, and that's the same thing we've seen happen time and time again. It looks like the recruitment team and the people making the decisions at the top have not learnt from what has gotten Stoke into this position thus far, and it looks like history is only going to repeat itself. You could say the answer or the problem at Stoke is above the manager, but of course the one man who will pay with his job when the form gets this bad is the manager at Stoke. So they could be on the same old merry-go-round that they've been in since relegation, where their recruitment team is poor, the signings they make aren't up to scratch and lack any kind of cohesive direction, and ultimately Stoke stumble and stutter to a mid to lower table finish where they end up changing their manager at least once, and that's what I think could happen to Alex Neil if things don't improve. 4. Valerian Ismael at Watford. Now, this may seem ludicrous given the fact that Watford have just gave him a contract extension, but this is Watford who we are talking about. Despite them giving Ismael a contract extension, I think if there is one club in the entirety of the Championship who would do that and then sack a manager weeks later, it is Watford and the Potsores. And you can't hide away from the fact that Watford's form currently is absolutely awful. 1 win in 10 league games, and it's worth saying that they are 10 positions worse off and 4 points worse off than where they were this time last season when they sacked Rob Edwards. So if that's the kind of bar that you're looking at and the standard that Watford set themselves with their managers, then you can only assume that Valerian Ismael is in a little bit of danger of losing his job. If Rob Edwards lost his job last season, then why isn't Valerian Ismael in danger this season? Now, you could say it's a bit hypocritical to say that when Watford continually get questioned for sacking managers too early, and maybe it is refreshing to see them sticking by a manager this season than otherwise, but that doesn't make me change my mind and doesn't make me worry any less for Valerian Ismael's job at Watford. We know how quickly and how trigger happy their owners can be when things start to look bleak, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit if, despite getting a contract extension, if Watford went without winning in the next 5 games, for example, Valerian Ismael was suddenly sacked and replaced with someone else. And finally, at number 5, I've gone with Gary Rowett from Millwall. Now, I will admit, this is me slightly clutching at straws and trying to get a 5th in there so that we do have 5 managers who might be facing the sack, but honestly, I feel like it's more so the fans' lack of trust in Gary Rowett that might be what puts him in a little bit of danger down at the Den. Looking at the form, Millwall's form isn't as bad, and it has picked up in recent weeks, but I feel like barring an impressive win down at Plymouth, things were looking really, really poor and really bleak for Millwall at the moment, and I still don't think their fans are quite convinced that Rowett is the right man to take them forward. They are looking weirdly poor defensively, which is very uncharacteristic for a Millwall side, especially under Gary Rowett, and I do think that the fans are lacking the confidence that they are one bad run away from a potential sacking down at Millwall. I do feel like a bad run of results will turn things toxic once again, and there is potentially an argument that Gary Rowett has took this team as far as he could. Now, I'm not going to take away any credit from Gary Rowett. He has done unbelievably well to drag this Millwall side, potentially punching above its weight, fighting for the playoffs over the last few seasons. But that undoubtedly is going to raise the standard and the expectations that are expected amongst the fans down at Millwall. And if they don't continue to match or at least get close to that kind of level season upon season, questions are going to be asked. And I do think there is a chance that maybe he's took them as far as he could and that he's done a good job without doing a great job at Millwall. And if they really do want to get to the next level, then maybe their owners will consider making a change just to refreshen things up at Millwall. It might not be a change because they are looking desperate and in danger of going down, but they might make a change because things are potentially going a little bit stale and they need someone new to come in to try and give the team a fresh outlook, to take them to that next level that they just can't quite break into under Gary Rowett, which is getting into that top 6. I do feel like there is a ceiling when it comes to Gary Rowett at Millwall, and they may have already hit it and peaked in past seasons. So if they want to exceed and continue developing and going on an uphill trajectory, it is arguable that a change of manager might be in order. So guys, there are the 5 managers who I feel could be under pressure for the sack over the next couple of weeks in the Championship, all for different reasons. Do let me know which managers you feel like might be under pressure in the Championship, and if you think there are others who I have potentially missed, as well as your thoughts on the manager of your football club, whether it's positive or negative. But until next time, guys, do hit the like button if you've enjoyed this content. I do plenty more Championship content here across the channel, as well as plenty on my beloved team, the Boro, of course. Subscribe for much more. Do comment below your thoughts, as always. A big thank you for watching. Do take care, and I'll see you all next time.